Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I want to talk to you about holiday gift ideas. This is a very common request I get from viewers, like, Nick, what gear would you recommend as either to give to EDC people for holidays or to give to non-EDC people to turn them into everyday carry people, right? This is a thing. And so every year I get asked to make this video, and this year I decided to actually do it. Mind you, this is kind of thrown together. What I have done is I have wandered around my office and just started pulling things out of my gear collection that I recommend to people over and over again. Pieces that are very, very good and that I think really merit serious consideration. I'm going to talk about a couple of different categories of gear here today. I'll talk about pens. I'll talk about flashlights. I'm going to talk about pocket knives generally. I'll talk about watches. Do not get into watches and do not get the people in your life into watches, he says guiltily. I'll talk about pocket knives, as you might expect from my channel, and then I'll talk about a couple of other miscellaneous gift ideas that are going to be interesting to a bunch of people. We'll go ahead and start off with pens because, then actually one other quick note. One of the requirements, so to speak, for something to be on the list is that they are relatively readily available here in 2020, and more specifically in the December of the 2020, because, obviously it's not a good holiday gift idea if they're all sold out. So there were a bunch of pieces that I would love to recommend, that I would send everybody to, but they're hard to get, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So anyways, let's go ahead and start out with pens. And by the way, if something sells out after this, I don't want to hear it. I'm doing my best over here. So to start with on the pen front, this is the Machine Era Classic. Actually, I'll just pull all of the pens I pulled aside out onto the channel here. This is the Machine Era Classic. This is probably the pen I carried most in 2020. It is just a solid chunk of metal, right? In this case, it's a brass, that is. But it's just good. It is a solid chunk of metal that in the middle you put a pen insert, a Pilot G2 or otherwise, and it stays in your pocket, then you take it out and you write with it. It is just good. And more importantly, it is beautifully machined. It is an object that I think you can have a little bit of pride in. So this is, for its price, absolutely stellar, and is something that you should definitely consider offering to somebody who is EDC-minded, or frankly, even who isn't. I've had people ask me, oh, where did you get that pen? Just people who are not remotely EDC people. And it's cheap enough that I can say, here you go. And that's a beautiful thing. Next, in terms of budget, is the TWSBI Eco. This is a fountain pen, and it is a fountain pen that is a really good starter piece, right? And it's good in a bunch of ways. It's not super expensive. I believe these guys are coming in around $30 these days. It is a piston fill pen, which means you can use any bottle fountain pen ink. You have a variety of nib options, including this guy, which is a stub nib, which gives you a little bit of line width variation, which is great. And it's a demonstrator, which I think is interesting to a lot of people. Is it the most, oh my God, machining quality piece ever? No, honestly, it looks like a freaking vape here. But at the same time, it'll give somebody the urge to go deeper into fountain pens if they're gonna, or it'll show them, hey, fountain pens maybe aren't for me. Either one, that's a beautiful thing, and it's cheap enough that you don't have to worry about it. If you want to go a little higher up the price range, one option you've got is the Machine Era fountain kit. This right now is configured with the rollerball, but you can actually get the same pen with a fountain pen tip, and in fact the kit will come with both a rollerball and a fountain pen tip, so you can swap that out. But this is another really good choice. It's another very pocketable pen, and it's great. This guy's been living in my pocket all month, actually. I'll just go ahead and put it back in there. This is the Tactile Turn Side Click. This is a new release for 2020, but they're good. They're really good. It's an absolutely excellent little pen. It's a simple, clicky design. It is a beautifully machined object. This one here is out of copper, so you get a variety of metals, but it's a very, very good everyday carry pen, and I find them easy to recommend. And then if you want to go really high-end, this is the Shown Design Pocket 6. This is someplace in that border between pen and art, and you're going to pay a price for that, right? But this machining is absolutely beautiful. The pen writes beautifully. It is just a great piece. I am absolutely a fan of this. And if you're willing to pay the price, which, by the way, is in the hundreds, this is a really nice art gift that happens to also be a functional piece of EDC work. So in terms of pens, this would probably be my recommendation. They've got a bunch of really good choices here. Let's then go on to pocket knives. A lot of folks follow my channel for the pocket knives, so let's go there. In terms of pocket knives, let's pull all these guys onto the table here. There were a couple of things that I tend to recommend very regularly. On the budget end, Ontario rat number 2, right? This is one of the better, relatively inexpensive pocket knives out there. It's about $40, and it's just good. It really, really is. It's got a nice thin blade, and especially if you get the one in the D2 steel rather than the Aus 8, you're going to have something that is just an absolutely great knife. I am a high-end pocket knife snob, but if somebody said to me, Nick, this is your last knife, this is what you're carrying, I can live with that. That's not a major deal. And by the way, there is, if you're looking for a larger person or a larger knife, there is the rat number 1. The 1 is bigger than the 2. Yeah, but again, in the D2 steel, you can't go wrong. And both of these are around $40, which is really excellent. Next one up the list is the Spyderco Dragonfly. This is a knife that I recommend regularly to a bunch of people, and more specifically, this is a great knife to give to somebody who isn't a knife person. Either a kid who's getting their first pocket knife, this is a great choice, or frankly, just an adult who might not be 100% game for some big, scary, murdery pocket knife. You know, you might still be able to give them this, and they'd be like, oh, wow, this is a really good way for them to learn that, wow, having an edge tool is useful. Having an edge tool is great. And this is, in fact, the piece that I will very often, you know, if a good friend keeps borrowing my knife, but they're like, oh, I don't know I could carry a knife, I'll give them one of these guys. And it's just like, and by the way, this is the one in ZDP 189, which is great, but you can get them in other steels as well. And you know what? It's all good. But this is just a really good ergonomic knife. It's a really good size, and it's just a great gateway knife. It's a great way to get people who you really care about into the hobby and get them learning that, like, wow, these are useful tools. If you want to slide further up the price range, you can end up in these guys. These are the Hogue Ritter RSK Mark 1 G2, I believe. And this is the mini version, and this is the full size. Both of these are really nice knives. They have a very nice action. They are very well built. They're good steel, nice blades. There is a lot to love about the Hogues here. They absolutely work well, and it's a good classic design. And considering you've got the pair here, and they're both in the 150, 160 range these days, I believe, they were a very nice choice. Next up is the Monterey Bay Knives EZC. This is the EZC 1.5, but I think at the moment you might still be able to get a 2.0, which is a full titanium integral, much more expensive, but this is like $180. And you know what? It's a really nice little piece. You've got a very nice minimalist sort of carry, but it is just a solid carry knife for somebody, especially if they're not, you know, like a crazy knife fetishist with 1,000 pocket knives sitting around. This is something that is a good one and done sort of design for people. I think a lot of people could really enjoy this, and it's something that's easy to recommend. Then finally on the high end, and also on the lower availability end, one of the knives I've recommended most this year is the Quiet Carry Waypoint here. Quiet Carry is kind of an odd company, but they're very small, but they've come up with these really nice pieces, and one of the advantages of this particular guy, which by the way is about $300, so it's not a cheap option, but it is completely rust-proof. So I've recommended this to, one of my viewers' son is a Coast Guard sailor, and was looking for a knife for the kid. Like, this is a perfect choice. It's a good outdoorsy knife. It's a good daily utility knife. This could be a very good only knife, and it happens to be in a really exceptional steel, Vanax. If you can get your hands on one of these guys and you're willing to shell out, this makes an absolutely stellar gift, and it's a knife I've been recommending a lot lately. So all of these guys are really excellent Christmas gift sort of affairs. Let's think about watches. If you want to get somebody in your life into watches, there is, by the way, do not get people into watches, but there is very few better ways to do that than the Casio F108. This is like $12, right? So for a kid especially, this is a great way to get him a first watch. It's not going to be a super high-end analog sort of thing, but you know what? It works, it's good, it's solid, and so I would definitely recommend the Casios on the budget end, and you know what? If it breaks, no problem. And this is a really good way, if nothing else, to remind people that wearing a watch is convenient. Because a lot of people are like, why would I wear a watch? I've got a cell phone. But at the same time, it's much quicker to check your watch in the middle of a meeting. You can be much more subtle about it, etc. Although now all meetings... Anyways, I digress. And, it is a really handy tool. And this has all the functions you need. It's more accurate than any of the fancy mechanicals you'll see on my channel, right? It is a beautiful thing. Another really great choice is the Citizen BM8180. The bracelet on it is just a piece of canvas. It's kind of trashy. And actually, I sold the bracelet I had on this for another knife at the moment, or another watch that is, for review. But this is a really great little choice for everyday carry watch. I mean, this is a lot of people's one-and-done sort of watch. The biggest disadvantage for it is relatively small. This wears relatively small. I mean, I have a smaller wrist than most, and this still feels a little bit small, but it is absolutely a great watch. And it is solar-powered, so basically you can give this to somebody, and provided they go outside every once in a while, it's going to run for years and years and years, and these are regularly found in the, $80 to $150 range. Then if you want to go a little bit higher end, I mean, certainly the sky's the limit. A Mega Seamaster, Grand Seiko, but that's a little higher end. If people are looking to spend a little bit more money, usually I keep them within Citizen, right? Because quartz watches are the very best choice for everyday carry watches for 90% of the world, right? And Citizen is a master of quartz watches. They have the Eco Drive movements, which charge from the sun. They are accurate. They are durable. They are just a beautiful thing. I am a big fan of Citizen stuff. This is a ProMaster Diver, and this is a titanium model. This is a great piece if you can get it. What's the reference number on this? It's going to be long and annoying. But nonetheless, it is a very, very, anything Citizen's making, their ProMaster Diver series is great. And so this is a really good watch to get somebody as sort of you're willing to spend $200 or $300. Oh my God, that's a lot for watches. It's not a lot for watches. Do not get into watches. But still, this is a really good place to get somebody their one and only watch. Citizen does amazing work, and it's going to last years and years and years, and without worrying about things like service or battery changes or anything like that. And that's just a win. So in terms of watches, this is kind of where I generally send people. On the budget end, go Casio. In the mid-range, go Citizen. And then on the high end, do some research. Talk with them. Take them to a nice jewelry store. Ideally, one who you got a relationship with and can save some cash. But that's where I generally recommend people getting into watches. On the flashlight front, I got two options for you. The easiest recommend on the flashlight front is the Nightcore Tip SE. This is a relatively new light, that is. And one of the beautiful things about it is that it is a tiny little light, right? If I put this guy up next to something for size comparison, it is not huge. And in fact, I can, show you, this is like the dongle on a car remote. It's about the same damn size, right? So this is not a large light, but at the same time, it puts out large light. If I put this in turbo mode, this is bright enough to light up not only the room, but the outside of the house. You don't get too much time on it, but at the same time, it's USB rechargeable, so no problem. This is a light I could very, very easily give to a flashlight muggle, so to speak. Somebody who has never spent any time in the world of flashlights, and they could use it because you just say, hey, look, you press this switch, it turns on. You press this switch, it gets brighter, and then it turns less bright. And then if you hold it down, it gets super bright. And then when it stops being bright, you plug it in, and then it'll be bright again. There you go. That's the entire briefing. You could get this for your grandmother. You could get this for whoever, and they would absolutely love it. On the exact opposite end of the spectrum is this little guy. This is the FW4A, the Lumentop FW4A, and this is another reasonably budget-friendly size comparison, Spyderco, another reasonably budget-friendly light, but it is as flashlight nerdy as they come. This has an interface that is someplace between stupid and a war crime, but is actually very configurable and whatnot. If you want to get deep into flashlight, this is the interface diagram for this freaking light. The fact that it needs an interface diagram should tell you some things, but the fact is, though, if you get one, particularly with like the Nichia emitter, which gives just beautiful color resolution like this guy does, you will get a flashlight that will be very appealing to flashlight nerds, and it puts out an impressive amount of light for the size of this guy. You'll also need to get a little charger for the batteries, because this doesn't have built-in USB charging like this guy does, but it is another option that you can consider for a very, very nerdy EDC type in your life. Let's see here. We did flashlights. One other thing that you should always think about, especially for somebody, especially for a human, is a multi-tool, right? And for me, at least, the easiest multi-tool to recommend ever is the Leatherman Wave. Although in this case, the Wave Plus is a new thing. The only difference is it's got these little chompers, replaceable chompers. I believe wire cutters is the technical term, but I'm kind of liking chompers. But anyways, it is just a really great little tool. And in fact, as far as I'm concerned, this is the best multi-tool out there because you get all of the various options you need. You get all your various, you get a serrated as well as a non-serrated knife. You get files, etc. You also get the ability to use the Leatherman bit kit set, which is another really cool way. Basically, it's a bunch of bits that you can swap into this little area right here, and then, carry whichever ones you need, and then you're going to be able to deal with specific kinds of bits if you're regularly dealing with that kind of thing. It is just a really nice choice, and especially with the clip, yeah. So the Wave Plus, or the Wave, generally speaking, if you get a good deal on the Wave, that's pretty much the same damn thing. is where I send people for multi-tools every day of the week. And a good multi-tool is absolutely a great tool, and it's a great gift that you can get somebody. Then finally, a couple of other miscellaneous tools that come to mind. One thing that came across my desk this year is actually this guy. And by the way, in the name of full disclosure, some of these things were sent to me by manufacturers. So for instance, the MBK, the Hogues, the Tip, and this guy, as well as some of the pens. Anyways, but nonetheless, they've not paid me anything or anything like that. These were all sent a while ago, and they don't know I'm doing this video. This is all legit, and watch my videos. I tell you why these things are good, right? But one of the things that came my way recently was this little kit from iFixit. iFixit is a company that, in addition to trolling major hardware manufacturers by taking their stuff apart immediately upon release, this is a really nice kit for somebody who works on electronics, but also who works with other random things, right? Because it includes a bunch of the tools that I would use for a disassembly of things, but it has like spudger tools, which allow you to separate things without, breaking or scratching them. Nylon tip tweezers, it's got an anti-static wristband, little picks here, a display remover, and more importantly, it has a full screwdriver set here, which includes one of my very favorite drivers. These are the same drivers I use every day in my knife disassemblies, but it also includes a pretty good selection of bits. It'll handle a bunch of different situations, ranging from boring Phillips head screws all the way up to really stupid, like spanner bits, or I think it's got a set of the Apple pentalobulas in here, and it's got, here are the pentalobes, here are the tri-wing screws. It's hard to show off exactly how dumb these are, but it's got a lot of the proprietary security screws you might have to deal with as well. But this kind of a kit here is a very, very nice little kit, and it is a good way, frankly, to, and it's just a handy thing to have around, generally speaking. It's a nice little thing, and I think especially if you've got somebody who's in the electronics world, but even if you've got somebody who's just in the daily life world, this can be a nice thing to have handy, especially if you need to take something apart and make some fixes. A little bit more mechanically inclined is a nice set like this. This is from Weha Tools, who is usually who I recommend for drivers. I'm sorry, not necessarily for drivers. This is an iFixit driver. But Weha, so this isn't a part of the kit. They have a different driver in here. Do I have the Weha driver around here someplace? Probably do. Yes, okay, beautiful. Here is a Weha. This is what the kit actually looks like. Comes with a plastic driver. But nonetheless, it includes a variety of different again, a variety of different bits, not as many of the crazy security bits, but a bunch of other things. You still get like the pentalobe stuff, but you get a bunch of Allen keys, a bunch of Torx, a bunch of hex, as well as a nice little ratcheting guy here, which allows you to use any of these tools with a ratchet. I have one of these guys, and it comes out pretty regularly when I want to put a little more torque on something. So this is a really nice little kit that you can throw in there. And by the way, a lot of these screws, you're like, why would you ever need this? You wear glasses? You're going to need one of these guys sooner or later. It's great for adjusting watch bracelets and things like that, at least ones with screwed out links. This kind of a set can come in handy remarkably often just in your everyday life. The bird sticker is from Birdshot IV channel, but completely separate and independent. Yeah, there is that. And then finally, one piece of gear that is a little bit weird, but I think everybody should have, especially if you're into knives, is a good strop. This particular strop is actually from Three Rivers Manufacturing, TRM, but there are a bunch of people who make strops out there in the world, and I'm not saying that this particular one is better or worse than any of the others. Basically, what you want is a flat piece of wood, of metal, carbon fiber, whatever, probably just wood, that has a piece of leather on it, and then you apply some kind of a stropping compound on there. That could be, like a diamond paste or something like that. There's a 1 micron diamond paste. You can just work it in there. You can do a spray. You can just use green compound. Hey, look, there are a million ways you can do this. But if you are a person who has a bunch of knives and likes your knives, stropping them is a really good way to keep the edges just on point. On edge, I guess. So I always recommend that somebody, that you own a strop. If you're a knife person, you should do that. So anyways, to me at least, all of those are the kinds of things that I very often recommend to people as holiday gift ideas if they are in the EDC world. There are lots of other approaches you can take. There are great, watch straps and things like that. But these are some of the tools that I tend to recommend most, or in some cases that I plan to be recommending most in the future when things are relatively new. So there you go. I hope this has been interesting, and that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day, an absolutely wonderful rest of your holiday season, and that you both give and get some amazing gifts this year. So have a good one, everybody, and bye now.